Okay, welcome back. Don't fall asleep. Get a coffee. We brought the sweets in to help you to stay awake, but I don't think you're going to need much help. Okay, while waiting for the last one to sit down, a few logistical questions I was asked again and again. Presentations, they will be online, I promise. If not tomorrow, hopefully on Wednesday. If not on Wednesday, at the latest next week. So you will have all the material. But in addition to that, that's a bonus. You're going to have a memo a bit later. There is a professional writer here taking notes of all the discussions, and there is also video of the speech, so you can make use of all the material for your own needs. And this is, between parentheses, this has always been the objective of the European Motorcyclist Forum, is to exchange information. So, second logistical elements, tomorrow at the Parliament, it's Esplanade in France, so not Rue Wirtz, it's the one with the Esplanade, on the side of the Luxembourg, Place de Luxembourg. And I don't think anything else. Okay, next session. So we've discussed about what we know about motorcycle safety. We've discussed about access to motorcycling. And we've already noticed how complex all this is. So nothing is simple. And now we are going to focus on road environment. What I call environment is actually broader than infrastructure. It's infrastructure, obviously, but it's also the environment in which the rider is using the vehicle. So it also refers to the traffic management and more broadly to new technologies influencing traffic management, etc. So the project has not been that ambitious with regards to ITS, and also because a lot of ITS relates to to vehicles. But we wanted to take advantage of the research we were making to collect best practices and to have a better understanding of what was going on at national level, if power two-wheelers were already integrated or not from a new technology perspective. So we're touching upon a list of different deliverables in the project. To moderate this session, I welcome Chris Redant. He's going to stay seated now because otherwise he's just going to say hello and then pass again the microphone to me. It's a bit silly. So he will take over once I finish the presentation. And Chris is a partner of the project, is representing FEARL on behalf of the Belgian Road Research Center. He's been very active in helping us with the outcomes and the analysis of the infrastructure side of the project. So, and we'll take the floor afterwards for the moderation. And he's also a member of the ITF group. Thank you. So, as usual, I like to remind the priorities set up by the Lillehammer Working Group. So, for what concerns environment, there are actually 6 priorities identified from the top 20 list of the Lillehammer Working Group. Priority number 2, Lillehammer says that it is a fundamental motorcycle safety requirement that by default, power two-wheelers should have a place in overall transport policies and infrastructure policy management. That was, if we integrate power two-wheelers right at the beginning of the process, then we avoid a lot of the issues afterwards. That was the idea. Priority number 4, I wasn't sure whether I should include driver training here, but for me, driver training participates to the environment in which the motorcyclist was using, but basically, it's about the need to include a component of awareness in the driver training. We discussed this in the previous session at the end. Priority number 15, motorcycle in ITS. Enhanced awareness of motorcycles should be incorporated into the development of vehicle ITS projects. So basically, a bit like for infrastructure, we should not forget power two-wheelers' characteristic in any kind of developments of new technology projects. Priority number 8, guidelines. Each level of government should include in their infrastructure guidelines measures for accommodation of PTWs, developed with the input of relevant stakeholders. The guidelines should be relevant to the needs of other jurisdictions concerned and coordinated with other jurisdictions. So don't just make a guideline, use it and coordinate it with all levels. Priority number 11, training of road designers, because guidelines is good, but there is a need to train the road designers. The need of power two-wheelers should be included in the basic training for road designers, highway and traffic engineers. And the last priority set up by the Lillehammer Group was roadway design, identification and resolution of roadway design problems, example black spots, etc. Should include an element. An element for power two-wheelers. Should include power two-wheelers, and we're going to see in the result that this is not quite the case. Now, I've already mentioned this at in the introduction of the project, but I want to get back to this. It was very striking to me that this was one of the unique problems, issues that we're facing, which is common all throughout Europe. These were the results of the problems identified by the riders themselves in France, identifying road maintenance first, then road surface, road markings, road signs, etc. And it was very striking to see that this was exactly the same as the European average. And as I told you, I'm not sure, no, that's not the slide, as I told you, this was confirmed by another comparative analysis between Western and Eastern countries. Same thing. The problems, common problems. We compared all the guidelines we collected, 17 guidelines, and there are common problems. Road design, condition and maintenance, the manhole issue, the crosswalk issues, on curves particularly, and the direction of the arrows. Road markings, also a common problem everywhere in Europe. But also the road surface quality with regard to the loss of grip, accidents, slippery surfaces, the maintenance and the gravel that remains on the road as well, the retexturing of the roads, common problem. Debris, pollution, fallen loads on road surfaces, common everywhere. Roadside, signposting, lightning column, plantation and vegetation, roadside protection devices, common. So about the needs, well, basically for all the categories of the road design and maintenance, this is the OECD ITF classification, well, we have to ensure that the motorcycle has a good grip whatever the weather conditions, so whether it's slippery or not, whether it's raining or not, I'm sorry. Clear signage that the riders can see and understand, because we have a different angle of visibility depending on the type of bikes. Good mutual visibility, ensure good mutual visibility with the other vehicle drivers, and minimum risk of impact when there is an impact to be foreseen against obstacles. Now, as I said, we compared and we collected the guidelines for power two-wheelers throughout Europe, and interestingly, there are still several countries that do not have any guidelines. Bulgaria, Czech Republic, Greece, Latvia, Luxembourg, Poland doesn't have any. Several countries have specific power two-wheelers guidelines. Belgium, Finland, France, Germany, Norway, Spain, Sweden, UK, Italy have specific power two-wheeler guidelines. Some countries like Austria have separate guidelines, but they're integrated into the infrastructure guidelines framework. A bit of a complex system, but that was slightly aside. And then you have Ireland and the Netherlands who include a PTW element into the regular guidelines for everyone. Now, out of all these countries, only two make the use of the guidelines mandatory, is Norway and Ireland, and to some extent partially mandatory are Sweden and Austria. But for the vast majority of them, they are not mandatory, and this is part of the issue because at the end of the day, they are not applied. When we talk about road assessment, we found out that, yeah, there are road assessments, they are designed, they are regularly assessed, but without specific consideration of power two-wheelers. So the inclusion of the PTW element into the assessment is something which is important to add. This is something I know FERL has been considering in one of the projects which is called Pilot for Safety, trying to integrate the PTW element into the training course of in road assessment audit and evaluation process. So what we also did in the course of this comparison is identify, well, for these common problems, what can be done and which standard, European standard, is actually in charge of improving the problem. So we came out with a list of the standards for improvement. So basically, if the European Commission wants to start working on the infrastructure element and improving power two-wheeler aspects in this is the list of standards that needs to be addressed. The problem for us as users is that it's very expensive to participate to the standardization process. So we've tried with the guardrail standard, EN 1317. It costs a hell of a lot to participate. You have to pay to become a now to have a liaison statute with Seine, you have to pay to participate to the meeting. So all this process is costly. So we can contribute. We would like to improve, but I mean we have no money to do it. So at some point the authorities will have to take the lead on this. Now, in the course of the comparison of country, we also find a very interesting initiative. This one is what's called the Norwegian Motorcyclist Vision Zero Road. What they did basically is that they took a stretch, a stretch of road which was very much loved by motorcyclists, and they looked at ways of improving this road to make it as Vision Zero as possible, with sometimes some very simple measures like the one I illustrate here, which is just putting asphalt a bit further on a gravel road in order for the gravels not to come into the main road. So that was a very simple measure, but which proved to be quite efficient. And if I'm not mistaken, Morten, you will correct me, but I think there are some other stretches of roads which are now in the coming motorcycle safety plan. Six new stretches of road to be addressed the same way. So I thought that this was a good practice to share.